of you getting close to finishing, so there's no rush. Please take your time reading. But when you and your partner are both done with the first two sections, go ahead and compare what you wrote down, ask any questions of each other that might have come up while you were reading, share important aha or light bulb moments. So that's when both of y'all are finished. You can go ahead and start having those discussions.
I've had that every part of our daily life, remembering feelings, understanding feelings, etc.
The first one, the aha thing that I saw was
how we think and process. What about for
I got if you guys have students talking to another teacher, I now teach you how to speak, then not teaching each one another and how to talk.
Yeah, language is not
remember the actual.
As I was kind of taking notes, we put imaging notes as speech, which goes
Yeah.
into thinking, which is kind of cyclical.
I just kind of gave a rundown of what it started off with, what we kind of changed to.
And so
So
I
it's
was drawing
teacher-centered,
thing, and I was like,
kids were punished if they talked,
and
and they had to memorize and recite,
cyclical.
and then it just became more student-led and encourages using feedback.
And so classroom, should we go
Cool.
with?
What was standing out to y'all over here?
Thinking. On the second one,
We liked how why it's important,
instructional.
so it makes you actually pay attention
Yeah.
and to other person's
And
intent.
the teacher.
Talking and language is actually how we think and process things.
From our understanding of daily things, we have that T-like book, and things about to be away, like, can't remember the exact wordage, but
Never did that, but she becomes our language.
Mhm.
No, it's not.
Yeah. If you, I know that you and I talk about when you hang around someone long enough, sometimes you start picking up the phrases they say or the mannerisms that they have, yeah. And I know me personally, like if I think something, maybe I'll forget it, but if I say it out loud, even if I have to remember, like if I'm telling myself, like remember to do something, and I said it for whatever reason, sometimes that helps me remember
One
it.
at a time is talking while the others listen or ignore the class. And the teacher doesn't see that. And so, to me, putting them in pairs or groups of three.
Once you've had your discussions with your partners, make sure you add to your graphic organizer. And let's go ahead and share as a group, because I think both groups had some interesting points. So we'll start with the group over here, Kelly and Sarah. Do y'all want to share some of the things that you said? And if they say something that rings a bell to you, feel free to jot it down in your graphic organizer.
Yeah. Yeah, so on the first one, Sarah mentioned how animals can think and image, but as humans we process verbally. And so by speaking, that creates a hierarchy that we're better than the animals. As I was reading, I saw that the imaging goes into the speech, which goes back to the thinking, which goes back to the imaging. So to me, it was a very cyclical process that humans take, and how important speech is in the learning process.
Right, and it can definitely be a cycle, I think, in your classroom. I hadn't really thought of it like that, but definitely every time you start a new content or even a new lesson within the content, I think that's a really great way to think of it and maybe help your students think of it. Or I know at our school we're real big on content posters or strategies on the wall. You can even make a little poster to remind the kids about that cycle. I think that's awesome. What about group two, Julian and Justin?
I think we talked about why it's important because it is part of every single part of our daily lives, from our memory to our understanding of things to even to our feelings, and how we process everything. I think that's what we took away from that first part of that.
Anything else? Okay. I know when I was coming around and talking to y'all, we were talking about how when something that was impressive upon y'all from that reading was how if you listen to someone's academic vocabulary, sometimes it becomes your own, or even just their vocabulary in general. And I know that I've hung around with people and all of a sudden phrases that they use commonly pop up in my own vocabulary, and I don't know how that happened, but it did. So if their peers are using it, if their teacher's using it, and then they are being forced to use it, it will gradually become a part of their discourse as well. Another thing that stood out to me when I was reading that was the conversation with the teacher and the student. That stood out to me as something that a lot of teachers, I think, would think that is successful discourse. You're getting one student to talk back to you and to participate and answer the question. And while that might be good for small bouts within a lesson to make sure students are engaged, that strategy of just asking one student to answer a question and it's teacher to student, that's really a better engagement strategy than it is student discourse, because you have the other 25 or 30 students in the classroom sitting there not really getting much out of that one single exchange. So student discourse is more getting all of the students to use this vocabulary, to use this terminology until it becomes ingrained in them. And I just want to point out to you too, that this activity that you're currently doing, this is me modeling for you how you could use student discourse in your classroom. You have a reading, you're breaking it up, you're chunking it for the students so it's not too overwhelming. They have a little graphic organizer where they can not just take notes, but they can jot down questions, they can write down words they don't understand. You could even have them draw pictures for your visual learners of things that they think are happening in that. And then while y'all were having your discussions, I was walking around to make sure that every group was on topic and was on task. And sure, in a big classroom, it's impossible to make sure everyone's on task, but if you walk around and you monitor, it becomes easier to make sure that they are having those conversations, that they are on task, on topic. So it still requires that element of teacher-led, like y'all said. I gave you the instructions, I gave you the materials, I monitored, but y'all were talking to each other and using terminology from the reading and things like that. So this is a strategy that you could use for student discourse in your class, even over something as seemingly mundane as a reading. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I thought the same thing when I was reading that conversation. I told Sarah, I said, I see this all the time in the classroom when the teachers think that they're doing the right thing and they're engaged. And I said, I pointed out from the author, he put the students or the others listen or ignore the class. But you have no idea. If they're just staring at you, that doesn't mean they're engaged.
Right.
So I mentioned to her it would have been better to put them in groups of 2 or 3. And let them discuss the process of the
Right, exactly, and that's a great observation. And yeah, you might have again, out of a class of 25, maybe one student's answering the question, maybe you have 5 more who are actively listening to the answer, but you don't know how many you have sitting there that are like, oh, this isn't my question, so I can just tune out, and then they're not getting anything from that, so yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go through this process for the final 2 sections as well, where you're reading, jotting down questions, aha moments, and then we'll discuss with our partners. So just read and jot down your aha moments or questions in that graphic organizer.